Good morning and welcome, everyone. I am Dr. Messina Morris, and it is truly an honor to welcome you to this GatherVerse Men's Health Summit Roundtable. As a daughter to a father I deeply adore, a wife, a mother of 5 sons, a sister, and a professor to over 2,500 young Black men at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, this conversation is personal for me on every level. You see, men are the backbone of our families and communities, yet so many carry their burdens quietly without spaces to rest or heal. At Morehouse College, we delivered the first content of its kind to our students in men's health in the biology department through Dr. Ethel Vereen. And it was a space where we could gather. Today, we are also creating that space, one rooted in truth, innovation, and compassion. I'm grateful to our brilliant panelists for joining us as we explore how XR and creativity can expand what wellness looks like for men everywhere. So let's lean in, listen deeply, and begin this powerful dialogue. Hi, gentlemen. How are you?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm going to
Hi.
give you an opportunity to please introduce yourself to our audience. Liam?
Hi, I'm Liam Broza. I'm the founder of Companion Intelligence, and I'm helping make personal AI that helps people make better choices in an overloaded world. So,
Thank you, Liam. Jeff?
Hello, my name is Jeff Crawford, and I'm the founder and CEO of 824 Solutions. What we do is we use XR and AI to train skilled trades in a holistic view to serve underserved communities. So I'm really excited. This is a passion of mine. So I'm very excited and honored to be part of this panel.
Thank you. And Sanjeet?
Hi, I'm Sanjeet. I'm a machine learning engineer at Elite CAD Designs. What we do is use emerging technologies to help out building operators and building maintenance work and construction workers using emerging technologies for really improving day-to-day activities for daily building tasks.
Awesome. So we have brilliant minds in the building. I love it. We're going to begin our discussion about immersive environments. In what ways can immersive environments redefine how men approach their wellness? Liam?
men neglect their wellness, but yeah, and only really when things go horribly wrong. You know, I, I like many people, work in the tech field, and it's super awful how people treat themselves, especially around a computer, uh, uh, and how easy it is to not um, do the basic things of eating right, exercising, stepping away, keeping a good routine. I've been a manager the last few years, and a lot of what I've been doing is just trying to convince people to step away from the work, go take a nap, go eat something, go get back into routine, because the modern life is deeply against you, and and you have to fight back with building good habits and being proactive. Yeah.
I certainly agree with you, Liam. I know one of the things that I am hoping that all of this emerging technology is able to do is to train us on how to be more human. And that's going to take a big push from us as human beings to stand up and say, hey, like you're doing with your coworkers and colleagues, take a break, step away. We still need to eat, sleep. We still need to engage with our families and communities. Jeff, how do you think immersive environments can redefine how men approach their wellness? Because see, I have sons and a husband, and they game out of control, and they are all in tech. So you tell me. You're on mute, sweetheart. Unmute.
Sorry about that. I didn't want to have loud background. No, I have two boys, 24 and 17. I do mentorship with boys in that age group. So I think it's a two-tiered kind of impact. I think the actual true physical impact is most of the things that you're doing with immersive technology. For example, us using virtual reality to do skilled trade training, how to be an automotive technician, that forces you to move. And what I know a lot of time is when folks are moving, motion is emotion. And so I think when you're doing things like that, it's going to create you being physical. And so to even advance it a little bit more to what Liam had spoken about, I don't know if you guys ever did the boxing in a virtual reality, but man, you have to be an Olympian to do that. And so just the physical machinations of an immersive experience forces you to kind of move. I think that's critical and very surface level. I think at the next level, it's your sense of engagement and belonging, right? I think what happens when you're in it, a lot of people like to just put on their headsets and kind of stay enclosed. But when you have an immersive experience, there's a lot of things that you can do in that can kind of supplement. So, for example, I know a lot of times when people use AI, they ask a lot of questions about things they want to do. When people have information and power and knowledge and can get it accessible without having to go through a lot of different hoops of resources, and so you've already had something already created and experience is created, I think that also exacerbates that. And so it gives them that sense of connection and empowerment when they can kind of do and learn and see something.
I love it. Sanjeet, how do you think that immersive environments can redefine wellness for men?
So first of all, immersive environment, I think it's just a way to it's a great way to just escape your current scenarios and situations of life and just take a break for once. Like, for example, if your people are coming from work, they're stressed all day, they have families. So I think virtual reality, especially now, you engage in an immersive environment, you're just in a whole nother realm. I look at it, whole nother world. And this world could be anything. Could be like a place where you just play games, stand up and play games, or like have some exercise type environment where you move around just to get your whole mental health and wellness is back on track. One area, especially in VR right now, especially back when I was actually back in my college days when I was interning for this startup known as Enable Games, we were using virtual reality technologies along with motion tracking technologies to improve rehabilitation for patients with neurological disorders such as cerebral palsy or multiple sclerosis or seizures and Parkinson's. So what we did was create different VR immersive experience games that people can play and regain mobile control and mobility. So really, in virtual reality, it can really, for especially males, especially, it's common in male psychology to be really stressed out about so many things or get paranoid or freak out. I'm sure we all know that. Being a male myself, that I have that problem all the time. But with VR, the minute you put on that immersive headset, it's like all your problems are gone. It's like everything is gone. You're just escaping in another world. But at the same time, you're back in reality at the moment and you're just experiencing things that are just unique. And there's so many unique tools in virtual reality, whether it's games or calming techniques that can really just help you to stay grounded and stay well and just come back to the moment and just stay relaxed.
One of the things that I really love is that it allows for you an opportunity to redefine who you are. At Morehouse, we had an opportunity to do mindfulness practice in VR. So we had meditation Mondays in the metaverse, and I found that to be extremely powerful for our young men to be able to just go into another setting and fully show up authentically as themselves. They didn't have to worry about what they looked like. Their avatar was perfect. They didn't have to worry about how they sounded necessarily because it was, even though you had presence, it wasn't in your face. So moving on from that, how do you think that extended reality technologies, especially, can help men talk about well-being in a space that feels safe and unjudged? And I ask that because in the spaces that we've created and I have created, and even the work that I've done with other demographics, VR seems to put them in a mindset that says, I am safe here. So can you explain how that is, Sanjeet, Jeff, Liam, anybody can jump in?
Yeah, well, in the VR world, it's like it's your own unique world. That's the thing. You're in an old, unique virtual environment. It's your world. It's nobody else's. And really, it's like it's a space, especially the metaverse, should be a space where you can just talk about anything you want without feeling unsafe or being judged. And especially with virtual avatars and AI, especially the companion, especially now to look at ChatGPT, you can kind of use ChatGPT as your own therapeutic
Right.
purposes. And the good part about it, it's non-biased. It's not going to judge you. There's also another good company that's using immersive technologies, founded by Oculus co-founder Brendan Reeve, known as Sesame AI. They're creating virtual avatars through smart glasses or phones that you can actually have a phone conversation with, and it sounds like you're talking with an actual human, but it's really an AI avatar you're talking with. That's really giving you a space where you can feel non-judgmental, non-judge, and really just giving you therapeutic advice and for your own well-being, and just it's acting more like a tool that you can go to just to calm yourself down. And now apply that whole AI avatar with virtual reality in a virtual world. You have that old space to yourself with the AI avatar that can kind of do your own, you can have that own free space and do your own talking. You could talk about what's on your mind, what you're feeling, what you're stressed about, and it won't judge you. And especially with some of the latest tools that ChatGPT, OpenAI provides, some of their APIs and other technologies, you can integrate that into your own virtual world, and it's really amazing.
You know what I find to be quite amusing about being a mom of boys is realizing that how sensitive you all are. Men are very sensitive, and you don't speak about the emotion that you go through because you are to appear as this strong person in real time. And so a lot of suppression of emotions takes place, but that doesn't mean that you don't feel very deeply. So being in a safe space is really important for the growth and development, I think, especially now that technology is everywhere and so accessible in ways that it hasn't been before. And men are great adopters of these technologies. But you know what? Even though you all golf together, you all play football together, you all do all these things together, you still don't talk about your emotions. So being in that environment, Sanjeet, like you were saying, is like where you find a safe space, where you have an AI avatar, is actually a way of pulling you all through therapy. Jeff, what do you think about that? About what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I think your insight is definitely coming from a mom in that perspective. I think what I can certainly say is that men certainly do talk about their emotion, but I think we do it in a way that's through something. And so to kind of segue this all together, the gaming community, I have realized, is a very tight-knit community. You talk about the Discord groups, and it is a very tight, with that self-governed, self-rule. So it is like a fraternity. And I don't mean that in the form of gender, just in the form of the brotherhood. And so so gaming naturally, so just, I know you say you're a mom. I know, what do boys like to do? They like to play Madden, K2K, all this stuff. And so if I'm having a bad day, bad moment or whatever, I might have an emotion, and I might call up my buddy and we go and play Madden together and just play for 2 hours and just talk trash. And that is the way we're handling our emotion. And then sometimes maybe there's a conversation or two. The other thing I'd like to point out as well is that one of the biggest things I think would cause men the ability to not be able to communicate is there's a lot of distractions, things getting pulled our way, and that's with everybody. And I think with virtual reality or any kind of immersive technology does, it makes it very myopic. You block a lot of it, so it's not like you got people pulling you here, people pulling you there. And so I know one of the biggest things with the young men we mentor is them on their phones, and they're always distracting it from something we're trying to mentor them on. Well, guess what? Their phone is the vessel that they're using for the interaction. So it becomes not even a distraction. It's a way to communicate. So I'll give you a classic example. I have a friend group, and we're some very viral men, and we had a group text for a period of time, and then when COVID hit, everybody kind of got on the Zoom thing, and we always talked about how weird it was for men to be looking at each other in the eye on the video. Fast forward today, we do it all the time. I've never seen a bunch of grown men FaceTiming each other. So technology has even softened the way men communicate as well. So I think we're seeing it progress. But these environments are safe, like everyone has said, and with it being kind of distraction free, and getting, that's what men do. They go into groups or places, and we coexist with each other.
What do you think, Liam?
Yeah, I'm always pushing for real interactions. I was part of a team that built social 3D web worlds, and we had a lot of communities use it as a space. And I'd have to just echo everything we talked about before. There is something very liberating where you can go in and be anonymous, or re-embody yourself in the way that you don't look in the real world and take on a new personality. I see a lot of people, they would literally act out characters, like get out of themselves, and work through things. A lot of what I think gaming is it's the escapism is like fantasy fulfillment, and it allows you to do all sorts of things that you can't do in real life, and be violent, be supernatural, be all these things as a venting space. In my current projects, I'm very much trying to build very hyper-personal AI that people can interact with, and we've embodied them in 3D characters, and it's really made our team pause, because I don't want people to have deep relationships with AI. I want the AI to be a place of reflection and then push you back into real relationships as fast as humanly possible. And there's probably the best documentary ever about the metaverse is We Met in VR, which I believe is still on HBO. You should definitely check it out. And it talks about all the great things in there. And there definitely should be a sequel, because now there is AI in places like Second Life and VR chat and elsewhere. And I'm always trying to figure out what is the balance here, because I want because I do see all the abilities. I love VR. It allows me to connect with my friends that are not here anymore. Like I live in LA. Most of my friends left during COVID. They went all around the world, and the only place I see them is in the virtual world. And it really helps me, because I actually, when I'm in VR chat or walkabout golf or whatever I'm doing with them, I can feel the presence that I cannot feel over a Zoom call. But it's no substitute. Yeah.
So interestingly enough, I had several other questions about thoughtful design, but we kind of talked about that a little bit, helping technology listen to and care for people's well-being. We also kind of talked about creativity being the bridge between innovation and empathy. What I want us to dive into that kind of hinged a little bit on this subject is the distinguishing simulation from genuine healing. Like, how do you transfer that escapism, that therapeutic safe space? How does that transfer over into the real world? And can we build parameters within these environments that, like you said, Liam, it pushes you to have more human relationships, that the NPC, instead of building one with you per se, it says, so take this conversation back to your mom, or take this conversation back to your wife, or back to your job. How can we build in spaces where these skills of communication are transferable and make you more human and more in tune emotionally with your empathy, your compassion, your ability to navigate the world? What do you think about that, Liam? Like, how can we do that, and what can we do to do that?
The best analogy for this stuff I've always heard is training wheels, right? It should be treated like somewhere between training wheels and like a safe space of reflection. And I think time is a good measure. Like if you're spending a couple hours a week in a virtual world, you should probably spend the same amount of time in the real world. If you're, try to pace yourself. That's generally like a lot of what I see in really good design of systems is just like YouTube and Roblox. They're starting to tell you to take a break. They're literally monitoring, the designers are monitoring the users and trying to enable parents, friends, whatever, to apportion time. So I all things in moderation, I think, is probably just a good, easy, axiomatic way that we can, and this is things we need to build in as a design, like is actually to encourage people to not overuse whatever space you're building, so.
That also brings us to design in general, designing these immersive environments that actually deepen presence and doesn't just distract. Jeff, do you have any thoughts around that? Sanjeet too. You all can, whoever wants to go first to jump in on that, but like, how do we make sure that these immersive environments are deepening presence?
So
yeah. Well, you guys said you.
Oh no, please, Jeff. Oh, please.
Okay, Sanjeet, I'm gonna pick you because I'm a teacher. So Sanjeet.
All right. So it's really, when to talk about deepening the presence in an immersed environment rather than distraction, you really have to know like what really makes the other person excited in the VR environment, because there could be a lot of distractions. So how do we deepen this in the present? It's really about creating a whole different environment. It's like creating game levels where a person is in, and then they're in an environment where they can just see. In a VR environment, it should be feeling like, because it's like it's so generic, you can be like doing whatever you want in a VR environment. It should be like, I'm in this environment, I want to be able to talk about what I want to talk about, connect with others online in VR, or go in an environment where I can just be myself. Like, for example, a deepening presence such as like mindfulness in VR, how to deepen the connection between the brain in VR and the body. That's like one way without feeling distracted, and maybe having like soothing sounds that kind of like help people just calm down. Because especially in VR, I know there's been a lot of simulations where they're using audio and sounds along with EEGs to understand brain synchronization in VR, that can understand a deepening presence of like connecting with others around the world. One research actually I did with the University of Auckland in New Zealand was trying to understand interpersonal communication using brain synchronization and hyperscanning for online counseling. And this was around pandemic, because pandemic, a lot of people were struggling deeply with mental health challenges, not being able to interact. So we created a system where comparing how real life users interact, and then trying to get all this data using AI algorithms and data analysis, and trying to create constructive virtual worlds where users can interact the same way from different locations, and understanding how they make eye contact, how they gaze with one another, and how their brain synchronizes and hyperscans to understand more about what goes on in an interpersonal connection in a virtual environment, deepening the connection between users and machines. And the way we call this is a human computer interaction, because really we're getting humans through machines to interact with one another. Another area this is known as is also empathic computing, trying to understand human regulation and human emotions through emerging technologies.
I like that you put the real technical jargon to what we're trying to explain. As a machine learner, learning engineer, I really could appreciate that, because that research matters when we're talking about how to create these immersive environments. I know for us at Morehouse, it was a time during the pandemic where our students could gather and they otherwise couldn't. And it was such a powerful experience to see their reactions as they spawned onto a digital twin of our campus. So our campus was built by Victory XR, and they're our EdTech partners, but they created a digital twin of Morehouse College, and we've had commencement services and Candle in the Dark galas and all of these different activities that happen on this campus. But what was most enlightening was that no matter where our students were around the world, they felt the presence of like me being in that environment with them, being in a familiar environment, which is home to them, because college is home, right? For our students, and seeing how they really came alive and wanted to show up fully present in these environments. Jeff, what do you think in terms of how we can design immersive environments? For us, it was our digital twin. What do you think?
So I think it's two things. I think on the back half of it, I think you have to increase the real life situations in which this technology is used, as opposed to just isolating to one place where this person were to use. So it's like, for example, if you want people, 90% of people, I think, I'm just talking loosely, 90% of the folks that have electric vehicles, they do it at home. Right. But if there was easier or more effective ways for them to do it outside of that, maybe people would adopt the use of EV more. So what I mean by that is, for example, if you have a real life situation where, for example, you're creating a metaversity for Morehouse College and you're trying to have somebody get integrated into what college is like, by you having a digital twin of Morehouse, that is as real as it gets, right? That's the technology is designed for you to feel like, and like I say all the time, I go to Universal Studios every year with my family. Spider-Man is like my favorite ride. And I know every time at the end we go down all the way, and I know at the end nothing's going to happen. But every time I feel the emotion like it's real in that experience, even though I know what the outcome's going to be. So the technology itself, and then applying it in real world situations. So if you're doing a skill training, you're not going to have ways to deviate and go away from it. We build the technology that learner's single focused on the task at hand, and we do it in ways that we know that the learning they like to do it. You know, people like to learn by themselves. They like to learn with peers, and they like to learn from professionals. And with technology, we can do all of that at once. We could put expertise in there, and they can do self-paced, and they can do all that. So that's about as real as I think it can duplicate. Whereas in a classroom or a real world environment, they're in a classroom learning actual things, but they're not physically. So I think you can do more real world applications when it's applied in everyday life. That makes sense.
That makes sense. And we have seen that our students are less distracted when they're in these immersive environments. They are more tuned into the work, and we've seen them achieve more. So increased grades, increased attendance, increased engagement, and having fuller, richer learning environments makes it better for everyone, because questions get asked that never probably would have gotten asked before and answered as well. So students are able to really freely engage with the material in ways that they otherwise wouldn't. And we're able to actually give them these experiential learning experiences all over the world, back in time, through the human body, that they otherwise wouldn't get. One, because we have limited resources, but two, because it's not possible to go inside of a human heart or to see the molecular world, but in immersive environments, you can. So how do we define real, even when the body reacts to what the mind imagines? How is real defined, and how do we create? So I have a son that has autism, and I always ask people who design these scenarios. He already has a hard time distinguishing what's real from what's not real. How do we make sure that there is a safeguard of sorts for him, especially now that AI is more is powering these environments more and are part of the world? But how do we define real now that you can actually react to a simulated environment as if it is real?
Yeah, I would say that type of dissociation is a real problem. You know, I when I started, almost a decade ago doing this stuff, I think I was much more freewheeling, in the sense that I was like, how this is just video games plus, it'll only be better. And I think as time goes on, and I've become much more cautious and reserved in my judgment. It's just, the statistics are pretty jarring of how plugged in we are, and the I think it's something like men spend twice or three times as much time playing video games as they do going to the gym or exercising or something like that. I read that recently.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that we all need to hone on is not this junk food experiences, but that everything that we build is like an extremely concentrated experience, like temporally and quality wise, and it's very thoughtfully made, and that we only consume that content the same way that like people would only want to consume good like you don't want to eat junk food, and that's the way we should definitely treat it, very discriminating. So yeah. Hopefully that taps on it. Kind of, yeah, I would say, yeah, as a foil to reel, I would say we should look for things that are healthy, and everything that I think is like dissociative and escapative is the thing that is I think what we're all trying to fight against. Yeah.
Exactly. And what's interesting is I was just like you, early adopter, someone really fired up and excited about all that this technology can do. And then I went back as an educator and I started really thinking about some of the other ways in which we've kind of fumbled technology, and maybe we should tread a little bit more carefully when we start thinking about these things. And so I think about social media and how Web 2.0 kind of came onto the scene. And as a person who was an adult already, when social media came about, I get to connect with my friends from elementary school and high school and college. And so it's so exciting. And I didn't realize that our young children, as they were connecting and their undeveloped minds were going through these spaces, this became the real world for them in a way that we understood it wasn't. They weren't able to distinguish that. And so a lot of lives and a lot of mental health issues arose during this time where we weren't really necessarily aware of the harms that being in Roblox, being in Minecraft, being on Fortnite, yelling at your friends, being on social media, having people bully you through these connections, because you are young and you're a kid, and kids do not so smart things, and not really having any guardrails in place. So asking this question is really like, how do we continue to monitor and define what is real for our young people so that we don't go through now being in this immersive real-time 3D worlds where people are totally out of tune with what is real, and that humanity still matters. Jeff, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think two things I thought of when you said that. One, I think what makes things real are consequences. And number two, I think in order to elicit those consequences, there has to be, number two, oversight, right? So I think some of the things that you had just mentioned, for example, what happens in Roblox or what happens in Fortnite, that typically is a lack of oversight.
Correct.
As opposed to the tech, and so I think,
Instagram,
for example,
just coming out with teen accounts. How long has Facebook and Instagram been around? And now you're starting to see the harmfulness that has been done and the lack of oversight, because every parent wasn't necessarily aware of these things. So what I'm saying is similar to what you're saying, Jeff. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and if there's real life consequences, so whatever world they're in Roblox and they do said behavior, the outcome, the consequence of that is some real life application. So that's if it's a positive thing. So for example, you go into this world, you spend this many hours, but you come out, you achieve homework or you do whatever, there is positive consequences to that, right? So you can equate time in, let them self-discover what's real, right? And then your job as the person overseeing them is to guide them down the path through consequences of what's those real consequences will, I think, help. So for example, I'm just using exaggeration. If someone thinks that Grand Theft Auto is real,
oh my God,
there's going to be a consequence to someone doing that. But for example, if my son wants to go shoot up the school or something like that because he saw it in Grand Theft Auto, my oversight should be there to know that if one, he's been playing that game and doing that, and that hopefully I'm involved in a situation where I would make sure that doesn't happen. So if that makes any kind of sense. I just wanted to use an extreme to say the consequence of their behavior will make it real. And then that way, when they engage these environments, I think that's what they're going to have to, and they'll figuring it out on their own is, I think, the most effective way.
So, Sanjeet, do you think as a machine learning engineer and someone who designs these environments and these systems, do you think that there should be built-in code and parameters that highly create disclaimers? I mean, like loud disclaimers, not the small fine print, but
Absolutely. There's absolutely, especially in a virtual environment, there should be ethical concerns and code of conduct that should always be followed, especially like I know Jeff brought up Roblox, for example. Like Roblox has like become a whole online interactive gameplay that people can do a lot of things, but what they may do in the virtual world may not be real in the real world, but some of the actions they may do or some of the way they diss each other or harass each other, that's real. And that's not unpreventable in a virtual environment too. Like, so for example, let's say I'm wearing a VR headset right now. I'm in a virtual world. All right, everything looks real. We know it's not real. It's just a simulation that my mind is tricked into believing it's real. But as I'm playing a game, and then there's or in an online world interacting with other people, and then someone comes up and starts harassing me or harassing somebody else. That action is very real. So it's like we need to be able to connect about what's immersively real and what's not okay, because harassment in VR, especially nowadays, it's not uncommon. It does happen. There have been complaints about it. People do complain to Meta about this type of stuff. It's
correct.
These are things I think we need to be able to differentiate, and especially about what the mind imagine and what feels real. So gaming in the actual virtual world, it may feel so real, but then when other people come, harassing you or doing things just people do cyberbullying, for example, that stuff, then that stuff is absolutely real. And it's no longer what's real and what isn't real. It's about ethical concerns and taking action and making sure that this world, that we're in a safe place, because the whole purpose of VR is you're trying to be in an environment where we can just unlock so much human machine perception. We're trying to really create a world where not only where people can gather, and really personally from a perspective I see VR is, I see this technology, we can enhance and unlock so many cures, so many things to diseases, so many things to curing mental health, treating conditions, and changing the way we interact and socialize in immersive gameplay, immersive world. That's really, I see it mostly for social good, but there are people then, of course, who do try to bend the rules and try to make it a little bit, unsafe.
So, speaking of which, our next question was what makes a digital environment feel safe? And because we're getting near the end of our conversation, just what one accessibility feature or piece of technology or something that you all as men feel like would make a digital environment more safe? Liam, you're muted.
I'm crazy about privacy. That's the thing I generally am. I look at all these worlds, and there's a lot of moderation. Like if you're on Horizon or things like that,
Right.
There's people listening to you and watching you that you can't see. They actually prompt you this when you actually join these platforms. They tell you, oh, by the way, even if you think you're not in the room, you think you're in the room alone, you're actually not. And I think there needs to be a virtual platform that takes privacy seriously. I don't really know of one that exists right now. If there is one, I'd let somebody reach out to me.
Well, I
But
think
it's
the education ones do, just because we have to, right? So they're
indeed,
locked
yeah.
down. So Victory
But
XR's platform like that is locked down. But for
well, then
social,
that is one, and there needs to be more. But yeah, that's the one I would highlight is the privacy in a big way. Yeah. So
Sanjeet,
yeah.
Sanjeet, what do you think?
So in terms of a digital environment feeling safe, Like I have to agree with Liam. Privacy, that's the main important thing, to be honest. I like, for example, in a VR world, I don't want other people to know where I am. I don't want other people to know anything about like private information. When I like sign up for a VR account, I don't want people to know like my demographics or my location, where I am.
Right.
And then anywhere I go in VR world, like keeping track of my spatial coordinates, I don't want that getting recorded and then stored somewhere that other people can access that. And then conversations I'm having in the metaverse, whether through an online gameplay or whatever, I don't want those conversations getting recorded. I want all that stuff just kept to myself while I'm enjoying in VR.
So how do you feel about digital environments like Discord or Twitch or all of those other places where there's like long chats and threads of everything that you say and go back and forth, even blogs and vlogs like you comment on, even when we get on social media or like LinkedIn, for instance, everybody can see a comment that you placed under someone else's comment. So it's like, is the interaction really real and enriching? Are people really being authentic, or are people having to play the hide themselves game and what connections I don't have because of that? I'm just curious. So I'm just throwing it out there. But what do you think about safety, Jeff?
Yeah, I think anything else other than privacy, I think will cause a lot of consternation, because I think it will come to show that it's not controllable, or it will cost a significant amount of time and resources. So I agree. I think the privacy piece would be a very important piece of it. And I think also, I also think there's an element that doesn't need to have that component in it at all. There needs to be some version of, you want to make it as safe as possible. But in this world of helicopter parenting and things like that, I would be mindful of kind of the environment you create. And then of course, you also talk about freedom of speech, which connects to privacy and stuff like that. But I think, again, I'll go back to my answer with the privacy is, yes, I think that's putting those things in place. But whoever's involved with these folks, that you're involved and understand what they're doing online, and you put in the oversight that you see fit to ensure that that environment is safe. And that starts with you can't say you don't know what Roblox is, or you don't know it. You have to get engaged and meet them where they are. I think that would really help out a lot of things. Whoever is not necessarily a parent, whoever is vested in that individual's life.
That is so true. And it's interesting because I always say we talk about privacy because new technologies come out, but do we really have privacy in general? I even think about how TV ratings were how they rate TV or radio, or like all of these things, and how they've been tapping into your viewership or your listening ability to listen to certain stations or through frequencies anyway. And I live in Atlanta. Atlanta is one of the most surveilled cities in the world, well, definitely in the country, where there are cameras everywhere. But you think about in people's homes now, you have Google, you have Alexa, you have Apple, you have all of these devices that are listening in, and yet we screen privacy if we're on a particular game or platform. Do we ever really have privacy? And I'm just kind of throwing that out there. But we have about 5 minutes left, and we did talk about the responsibility that comes with creating experiences and emotion and memory, because that memory is there. But I want us to finish this conversation by giving our audience an understanding of what kind of digital worlds should we really be building for present and future generations. For me, as a mother who is has a child that has moderate support needs, that needs community at all times, distinguishing real from fake is very important. And having maybe an AI buddy to help navigate these scenarios, kind of like a protectorate or protector within all of these things that he uses, that's kind of like my dream. But I think about worlds where all children can be educated and not lack all of these things for faith, even like how could we build worlds that build up faith, healing, and well-being for us so that we can be more human. What kind of digital worlds, as we end, do you think we should be building? I'll start with Jeff.
Yeah, I think the world we got a sneak peek into it when the world shut down with the pandemic, and I think what we uncovered was even folks who call themselves introverts or whatever, that human connection was very important, and I believe that we uncovered what that world was going to be like, and now are living in it now. So I think we're already here with it, and I believe that I don't know. I'm trying to say this without sounding callous. I think that it's really just a byproduct of most people are going to do good in this environment. I think most people, their intention is to do good things in that space. I think it's a great place where resources can be. For example, I remember before it was very tough for people to be seeing a therapist or something like that. And now because of the pandemic, telehealing has really improved, and I think people have preferred that, and it's increased the number of people that get that kind of service. So I think those things will continue, especially as people create business models to do that. So as long as they're doing it, I know one of these other seminars talked about ikigai. As long as what you're doing for a living is for the good, and I think that's where we're at right now. I think the outcomes that those folks are looking to get will make those things happen.
Okay, Liam.
I would, I think there's the start of really great community spaces on all sorts of different topics. I would love to see all the platforms embrace and respond to those communities much more, which I generally see like I know somebody who does sobriety, like an AA type meeting in VR, and they don't feel very well supported by the platform that they use. I very much think your idea is great. I've heard that many times of building like worlds that are an alternative to the K through 12 textbooks for everyone. It's like I've used Khan Academy to brush up on things, myself and with friends. Like I would love to have something more engaging like that. I think those would be the most impactful and vital things we could do. Is really focus on education and communities. So yeah.
And Sanjeet, finish us off and let us know what we should be building for present and future generations.
I think when it comes to building for the future generation, we should be building digital immersive experiences that educates awareness and especially creates a constructive virtual environment where people can just feel safe and interact, and creating immersive educational environment that can spread awareness for social good, such as mental health challenges that we face. Creating immersive training environment that can train maybe whether social workers or clinicians or police officers and how to better handle mental health environment and be more aware, so we can increase help for those type of people. Other type of world I think we should be really creating is world for like specifically for people that suffer autism and ADHD and neurodiverse challenges. Creating a separate just individual world for them where they can interact with others, but also creating gamified environment where they can learn awareness that maybe other neurotypical people naturally have, where neurodiverse individuals have to acquire. So I think we should be really creating immersive worlds that spread awareness, that are for interactions, and that could really spread social good and really just change the way how we perceive reality, how we perceive society. The way I look at it is kind of like creating the Matrix, but for awareness.
I love that. And I thank you all, Liam, Sanjeet, Jeff, for joining this roundtable discussion. Thank you all, everyone, for gathering with us to talk about the power of XR creativity and extending the reality of health. I hope you really enjoyed it. As a mom of boys, this Men's Health Summit is a wonderful experience, and I hope that you learn a lot from being here with us. See you next time.